Hi, my name is Sierra. I'm going to be reading part one of an original thing I wrote. It's named Kyra Lee. I hope you enjoy it. Here's part one. Her name is Kyra. Dressed in an oddly simple black dress, she stood in front of a mansion in the middle of nowhere, debating on whether to face her future or not. I wish I'd never turned 18, she thought. Then the agency wouldn't have had to let me go. They would still have me. I would still have them. Are you coming in or not? A male's voice interrupted her thinking, shattering her train of thought. Looking around, she couldn't see anyone. The last thought she had outside the mansion were, it must have been an intercom. Hello? Anyone here? She called out into the silence surrounding the Victorian decor. Slowly she turned, getting a feel for where she would be working the rest of her life. Kyra took in everything, from the paneling of the walls, to the mantel, to the small porthole in the kitchen door. As she turned her body back towards what she faced when she came in, a figure suddenly loomed behind her. A piercing yelp escaped, unwilled from her lips. Standing right beside her was a man with startling green eyes. She hadn't heard him approach, nor had she expected to be scared like that. Quickly looking him over, she noticed he was wearing clothes that matched the house. Victorian. Immediately she caught on that he was scrutinizing her, the same as she was him, if not more. Well, he said, blowing the platinum hair off his perfect porcelain skin of his forehead. I am Nicholas. You may call me Sir Nick. Sir, nowhere near. I'm calling you Nicholas. I don't respect you near enough to call you sir, and I don't know you, refuse to know you, well enough to call you Nick either. His stare in response was cold, despite the sweet green color his eyes gave off. Very well then, Miss Kyra. My name is Kyra Lee Lance. If you use my last name, I refuse to answer anything. A flash of sorrow came to his eyes for a split second, almost too fast for her eyes to catch. Although, as fast as it came, it was gone once again. The wall of steel was up once more. Of course it didn't matter. It never did it? He mumbled, and then catching himself, he said louder, for her to hear, Master's upstairs. Please follow me. With that, he started walking up the stairs, Kyra close at his heels. Everywhere she went, she saw portraits of people throughout almost every generation. Glancing around, Kyra was looking for something that looked like it came from the last 50 years at least. Sadly, there was nothing of the sort around. Nicholas, noticing that she kept glancing around, spoke up and said, This house was built very late in the 1400s. In the 1800s, there was a fire here. They had to completely redecorate and rebuild the east wing. At least he was trying to be nice, she thought, and here I was mean to him. Trying to pick up the spirit and make him feel less awkward about that, Kyra responded in what she felt was a chipper, a happy mood. Really? That's interesting. It feels as though everything had always been here, together. As they reached the top of the stairs, Nicholas bowed. This is where I leave you, he said, obviously avoiding her eyes. Looking baffled, she cracked open the only door on the landing. It was a big, old-fashioned one, like the rest of the house. She peeked in. There was no one in the room. Very delicately, she let out a sigh of relief. Only too soon had it escaped her lips. At that exact moment, someone had touched her shoulder. Startled by what she hadn't expected, she fell into the room. Immediately, she turned her head to shout some foul words she didn't even know she knew. When she saw him, he was tall, slim but muscular man. Warm brown eyes shone behind reading glasses. His hair had an amber sheen you just know, you knew was real. Kyra was now silent and all, a definitive contrast from before. I take it you're speechless. He spoke with a nice, easy smile to his lips. I highly regret to tell you, Mr. Semper isn't here at the moment. He is out for a while, you may say. Possibly business? Until he is back, however, I run this household. My name is Jonathan. I understand you aren't much for nicknames, as Nick told me, so I suppose you may just call me, well, Jonathan. A blush grew on his cheeks, unwanted. Stammering the way she did when she was nervous, she opened her lips to respond, when a big, burly dog came bounding in, knocking her from the sitting position she had managed to get into. A small smile came onto Jonathan's lips as Kyra struggled under the doggy kisses being forced on her. This is Rufus, our dog, he said with a great amount of pride laced in his voice. Kyra, wanting to please him as much as possible, smiled and tried to hide the fear of the big animal on top of her. Well, should you like to see your quarters? He asked her with a great deal of happiness shining on his face. Of course I shall, she stated with a perfect mimicry of his happiness upon her own. Rufus, out, now. The burly dog obediently, but sadly, got up and walked out of the door he'd bounded through just minutes before. As Jonathan took her to her room, Kyra was looking around, memorizing everything along the way. Of course, Jonathan, being who he was, or what he was, noticed exactly what she was doing, and said to her, Don't worry, I made sure your room would be relatively easy to get to. Simply follow the main staircase, take the first 3 lefts you see. The last hall you see is part of your, shall I call it, your area, possibly? His voice followed by the small chuckle that was already familiar to her, and a faint smile tugging at the corners of his lips. Honestly, Kyra thought it was getting kind of creepy. Luckily for her, that was the exact moment they arrived at her hall. Sweeping his arm, Jonathan said, These are your quarters. Gasping, she tried to close her mouth and counted the doors up and down the hall. 17! How could I have gotten all this? Were her immediate thoughts. As Kyra turned to thank him for all this, he was gone. She turned a full circle, and all she saw was a small boy down the hall, playing with a yo-yo. Not even sparing a second to be curious about the child, she turned and started exploring her rooms. Okay, so that's all I have right now. Well, that's not all I have right now. That's all I'm willing to be reading right now. Hopefully if anybody sees this, they're interested and they'll keep watching it. And if you know any publisher friends or whatever, feel free to get them to listen to this, because I think I'm not that bad of a reader. And then down here, I have a link of my website. It has copies of different things I've written. And then here, let me pull up a little extra. And then, open. Sorry, talking to my computer. Other computer. I'm using 2 computers. Because I'm poor, I don't have a camera. Here's a poem to keep you sated. Only a little bit. Just a touch, he told me. I only need a little bit, he said. Well, I'll let that one touch, that little bit happen. Please, he asked. I won't go too far, he said. While I listened to his question, let him get a little bit closer. I'll be back later, he told me. I won't be gone long, he said. While I listened to his words, I listened to his statement. I was a fool for believing them. Okay, that's not based on personal experiences. I was watching Lifetime TV, and I kind of get all these ideas from various things on TV. Well, I love Lifetime. It gives me ideas that are kind of depressing. Whoa, I almost broke my laptop. It's okay though, because I can't break that. It's a school thing. Um, anyways, I'm a writer. I'm gonna be putting up the second part of Kyra Lee sometime soon. I don't know when, but yeah, stay tuned. Bye.